And here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions for companies. I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology teams and products. So today we're going to dive into a new topic where I'm talking about how small AI is better than overly large LLMs, and why these overly large LLMs are bad. And let's dive into this topic a little bit, and I'll give you a little bit more reason. Okay, so let's dive into this topic a little bit. So I was reading this article here where Zuckerberg says that Meta will need 10 times more computing power to train LLaMA 4 than LLaMA 3. Now, he was already saying that LLaMA 3 took an estimated the words he uses, hundreds of millions of dollars to train. So as they're talking about 3.1, and it was released here with a $405 billion parameters. So Meta released LLaMA 3 with 8 billion parameters in April. The company last week released an upgraded version of the model called LLaMA 3.1 with 405 billion parameter inputs, right? Which had 405B, stands for 405 billion parameters, making it Meta's biggest open source model. Now, the CFO, also the company, is thinking about different data center projects and building capacity to train future AI models. She said Meta expects this investment will increase capital expenditures in 2025. Training large language models can be a costly business. Meta's capital expenditures rose 33% to $8.5 billion just in Q2, from 6.4 earlier. And a lot of this drive is going toward training AI models. Now, as we scale generative AI training capacity to advance our foundational models, we'll continue to build our infrastructures in a way that provides us with flexibility in how we use it over time. Now, again, what they're trying to say is they're not going to build it just for that they want to be able to build it so that they can use it for other things. But that's kind of highlighting what I really wanted to dive into today, because the tech world's buzzing about the latest advancements in AI, and while large language models grab headlines, to me it's actually the smaller models that are making the real impact. I recently was reading this article here, and it got me really thinking about the practicality of these enormous models. Now, for most businesses, the cost to build, most businesses don't even have, I know most small businesses, and a lot of people I'm talking to out here don't have, 8.5 thousand or even 8.5 million, let alone $8.5 billion to be expending against this. The other thing about it is to kind of put this into perspective. So generally speaking, when you want to run a model, it's just to run it, not to train it, but to run it. To run a model that, it requires 1.2 times the size of the parameters on GPU power. So if you're going to run an 8 billion input model, you really need at least a 12 gigabyte graphics card. Now, for most people, that's still relatively reasonable, right? But and powering on a 12 gig GPU that you stick on a machine under your desk seems really reasonable. To put that into a data center can become more costly, and most businesses aren't really stacked up to that. So then they have to dive into investing into AI in the cloud, and this becomes really expensive. And so, this has really gotten me thinking, because smaller AI models are proven to be remarkably efficient. According to an article by VentureBeat, these models can deliver high performance with significantly lower computation requirements, and that computation means cheaper hardware and less power. That's part of what everybody is missing too on the AI push right now. What this AI push is going to take is, think of the amount of electricity, the amount of energy that's going to be needed to be able to power this. And they're saying that our power grid won't be able to hold up to the needs of being able to fuel these AIs. So if Meta's going to need 10 times the processing power than it needed, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars to build out the 3.1, and 4 is going to take 10 times that. The investment's great for NVIDIA and some of these larger chip makers, and for developers in general. I think there's a lot of jobs that are going to come with this. But really, these smaller models are what are going to be really the more prolific ones. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Everybody keeps pushing for bigger, 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 bigger. I'm not a big fan of the bigger, 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 bigger. I think that's everybody's trying to this race to Gen AI, generative AI, and I really think these smaller models can be fine-tuned more effectively to suit particular needs. So, for instance, Microsoft's Phi 3 is one of the smallest AI models, but it's been shown to outperform large models in certain applications. Now, again, that's to, if you're just doing this one thing. The focus on building leaner, purpose-built models can yield impressive results without all the bloat. So, now, as always, make sure that you follow the channel because we do a lot of coding videos here, and here at StartupHakk, we train software developers. And so we provide hundreds of different videos with different coding samples. We bring you like 5 new technical videos every week, as well as these lives. And so I just want to make sure that you, take advantage of these. There's hundreds of free code samples, so make sure that you go and check those out. But, again, so Microsoft has been working on this, and this isn't like a new announcement, but I think it's getting missed among the noise of bigger, 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 right? And so, like, I like this. Sometimes the best way to solve a complex problem is to take a page from a children's book, right? Everything you needed to know, you learned in kindergarten. You've heard that before. That's a lesson Microsoft researchers learned by figuring out how to pack more punch into much smaller package. And so this is about Phi 3, right? And so I'll blow this up here so we can see a little bit better. Oh, there we go. So quality versus size in small language models. So you notice it's called a small language model, not a large language model, right? And that's what I'm kind of trying to drive to today. So we got Phi 3 Mini, which is only 128K. So it's a very lasered approach. You have small and you have medium. I believe their medium is 7 or 8 billion. Now the reason this becomes important is because that's then something that you can run on a 12 gigabyte graphics card. A single 12 gigabyte graphics card can power that. So as part of our project to want to learn how to run a lot of these models, we started AskMini.ai. And AskMini.ai is a very simple little Chrome extension that we built, but we're hosting all of the models ourselves. So with just, you can select part of the page, whoops, not that much of the page, select part of the page, right click on it and say summarize the selection with AskMini.ai. It'll actually then summarize against all these different models. Now, so you got, and so part of what we're playing with here too is, you notice we're playing with LLaMA 2. This is older by today's standards, but it's the small models. And we've been training against it, and we find that it's actually really efficient. So let's go back to our graph here. And so you can see LLaMA 3 is in here. They're 8 billion. And the Mistral, or Mixtral, these are very similar ones, right? But you notice all these small models that they're playing with, that Microsoft's playing with. Now, I'll kind of get into why this is going to matter. Because the adaptability of some of these small models is really important. Smaller AI models are not just more cost effective, but they're highly adaptable. So these models can be easily customized for various different business needs. This flexibility is crucial in a rapidly changing tech landscape where businesses must quickly adapt to new changes. Large models with their monolithic structure also lack adaptability. They're trying to capture everything, but really for most businesses, they just kind of need this. So small models can be tailored to that very specific use case, providing businesses with precise tools they need, and it's about agility. Large AI models are notorious for their energy consumption. There's a lot of people very concerned just with the effect of I just blinked. But they're not green, right? Training these behemoths have a significant environmental impact. That's the word I was missing, the environment. As noted in some studies, in contrast, smaller models require much less energy, right? You can take these models and you can train them on a fraction. Like, this is exponential. Like, as you train the model, it's exponential. It's not linear. And so the smaller the model, the smaller amount of energy that's being used to train it. But you can also then take these models, these engines, and empower them to do very specific things, right? And so just like at AskMini.ai, we just wanted the ability just to be able to do a very simple chat and to be able to select which model we were going to chat against. So is the sky blue? And I can pick whether I want to go against Mistral or one of these others and run against that. So AskMini.ai is really handy, definitely a handy tool. it's been fun to learn about it, and that's one of these many ways that so we're hosting all of our own models, and we're able to do that at a fraction of the cost because we're focusing on these smaller models. I have no interest in going after these big models. One of the things that you'll find on this too is you're actually going to find that as it scores, it can perform better than larger models. Now, again, this is a very lasered approach. So I've noticed one of the areas where these small models usually fall off is against math. But I don't know a ton of people who are asking AI. I don't know a ton of people who are asking AI to do a ton of math. I don't think most people would trust it to do math. Frankly, the LLMs are terrible at doing math. But you notice what he's holding here in this picture. So they're part of the reason for these smaller models is because they're purpose-built, right? They're built with a very specific use case in mind. You're generally not going to ask your phone to do advanced calculus or advanced physics computation, right? And so because of that, what it's looking for is asking it questions like, is the sky blue, right? And those are things that it can do and it will be able to do. And that's the point is we want to be able to, these smaller models are able to be run in your pocket. And that's why I think a lot of interesting advancements, right? And so these aren't new articles, right? You'll notice that, this one was from April, right? But they're kind of, this work among the smaller LLMs is kind of going a little covert. A little. I say a little covert. It's not terribly covert. But because you notice that Apple is working on the Open Elm, right? We've got Microsoft working on Phi 3, and they're public. I mean, this is, a very public, article here. And then you've got kind of your 5 small large language models, right? And I like this graph too because why? What are the reasons, right? They're accessible and affordable. So it means anybody can download them, run them on their desktop, start developing against them. And you can do it even locally, right? They're more energy efficient, so much more greener. But at the same time, that's cost, right? Energy is cost. Easy to customize. So that's one of the things. Training these large models is crazy hard. It takes a lot. They're cheaper to develop against, right? And then you can get a very value purpose for education. So even a lot of the models that they're using for training advanced stuff with medicine and with other use cases, you can train those small models where it doesn't necessarily need to know the history of Great Britain back to, the Stone Age or something. But instead, all it really cares about is knowing the human genome, right? So you can train on these specific use cases, and it becomes very valuable, right? So these small models are going to have a real good purpose. So where the media keeps grabbing it and they keep driving it bigger, 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 bigger because everybody wants generative AI. Now, my also thoughts on this is that I think we see something, and I've used this example before, but I think if you want a really good example of where AI is going to go and where these small models are really critical and important is look at Tesla FSD, right? Full self-driving. So Tesla's had autopilot for years. An autopilot is essentially a glorified cruise control. It works really well on the highways. It'll keep you in your lane. It'll stop for cars in front of you. It is very impressive. Works very well. But if you actually want to say, hey, I'm putting in this address and navigate me from my driveway all the way down to downtown and back, autopilot won't do that. And that's what requires FSD or full self-driving. Now, FSD has been around for a while. They were able to get it to an 80 to 85% really quickly. But that last 15% has just been painstakingly grinding, grueling to finish that last 15%. And I think we're going to see the same thing towards like generative AI. Most of these big models are scoring in the right around the 80% on most of these benchmark tests that we're running against, right? And I think we're going to see the same thing. But that's why these little models are really great, because if all you're doing is needing it to answer a customer service request, then 80% is usually probably pretty good, because generally speaking, you humans probably may not be answering much better than 90% anyways, And so an 80% may be good enough, right? So in things that aren't life-altering decisions, right? And I'm not going to put an 80% up to, answering questions about, medical care or something. But if I'm just, asking, hey, I just need a refund on this order, well, then 80% is usually pretty dang good, right? And so that's the thing is it's because of the smaller models, it allows people to be able to make these very purpose driven and to focus on building smaller task specific models. And companies can achieve this with a couple of developers, a handful of servers, and just picking some of the right solutions for this. And so I think you're going to see more and more small businesses leaning towards this because there's just like there's no way to compete. You're going to only have the big 10 players, 15 players, going towards Gen AI. And I don't know that, I mean, I'm skeptical. In 25 years, obviously we've seen a lot of advancements in AI, and obviously we haven't seen companies putting billions of dollars into AI. So I do think we will see some advancements in it. I don't know that we will ever totally reach generative AI. It's my opinion, but I could be wrong. Obviously, Sam Altman and the CEO of NVIDIA disagree with me. But I think ultimately for empowering small business, the benefit of the smaller AI models is the potential to be able to power a small business. They're not going to be able to go build Gen AI, but they'll be able to take some of these smaller LLMs, train them with their notebooks, their data sources, and be able to get it to be able to do this. We're doing this for a company right now where we're helping a smaller LLM to train this. So these models can be trained and deployed on a budget and provide a powerful AI tool for companies. And so by focusing on the successful AI solution, it's a lot less of how to eat the elephant, right? A lot of times, and I know there's a lot of CEOs out there that are wanting AI in their organization, but they don't know how to implement it, right? And so I think these smaller models are going to be what we're going to see. A whole other angle to this is, and part of the reason why you're seeing, let me switch back over to my screen here. Part of the reason you're seeing, Microsoft and Apple and, for Copilot, right? And a lot of these starting to work on these small models is because they want them to run on the phone. You want to get an AI that can actually run on a phone. And an 8 gig model will be pushing it, but a 3 billion input model you can definitely get to run on your phone. And these phones are powerful enough to be able to power that. And that's going to be important as we go into privacy. Obviously, you're not going to want to put something onto your phone that's going to kill the battery. And so, these smaller LLMs, that's part of why these companies are really doing a ton of research. Why do they care? Because obviously these companies, Microsoft, Google, and Apple, are playing with these smaller AI models because they want them to be able to run on the phone. Now, of course, Meta is investing in these big ones because they want everything to go through the cloud, and they want to get you into their platforms to be able to then use these AI tools, right? And also the AI inside of Meta with all their various social media platforms is going to power that differently. So I see something like this, and it really makes me go, man, I totally get why Meta's doing this. I'm not suggesting that Meta's making a mistake. I think there's a lot of waste going on here. I would really like to see these companies invest instead into making these smaller models more efficient. But I think really for us entrepreneurs, small business developers, I really encourage you to dig in and play with these smaller language models, right? These small language models allow us to be focused, to bring AI to something that can be useful for your business while not breaking the bank and while not wasting a ton of time and work and amazing amounts of resources to try to get there. So these small models, you can definitely take a look at. One of the places I would say to take a look at is you can look at Hugging Faces, right? This is a great spot. Another great, and so with Hugging Faces, this will allow you to run some of your own models locally. Another great place, sorry, this was an article I was going to talk about, and I kind of guess didn't get to it, but it was a pretty deep article anyways. The other one that's a really great resource is LLaMA. You can look at the library here, and you see, they allow you to run some of these locally here. There's Phi3, right? So this is a great, easy way to get Phi3 up and running with just a handful of keystrokes. These run great on Ubuntu servers. And so a Ubuntu server with, an 8 gig or a 12 gig graphics card will comfortably run this and can actually run it for a whole organization. So, there's a lot of very simple ways that you can do this. And so that's kind of my big call out here is I think we're It's great. These companies are pushing the drive toward these bigger and bigger and bigger AI models. But for me, I'm focused on the small business model. I'm focused on building companies and technologies and helping companies build technology for their company in an efficient manner. And I think working on these small language models is going to be really critical as we move forward into the future, so that we can, excuse me, build out into the smaller use cases, so that you can host for an organization without having to spend $40,000 on an H100 or H200. And I think there's a lot that we can learn here. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? My favorite thing is when I get comments. I love getting people who comment, even if they're telling me I'm wrong. I've had some great discussions with folks in the comments. I answer all the comments myself. I'm a pretty small operation at the moment. For the AI channel, we're growing quickly as a company because we love to train software developers here at StartupHakk. We're training software developers in our coding boot camps, and then we also like to hire a lot of these out of the coding boot camps to then help us build custom software solutions for companies as part of our custom software solutions. So reach out, because we'd love to help. Hit me up in the links down below. Make sure you leave a comment, even if it's just to say hi. I love when I get people saying hi. Was chatting with a guy from Ukraine the other day. Loved it. That was cool. But make sure you also go back and check out our previous videos, because we do provide hundreds of different coding samples, all totally for free. And so we love to train software developers. And make sure to catch up with us, and we'll catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.